Hi again, and welcome to our series on firepower in GFW, focus on FTD clustering. In this video, we're going to show you what happens on switch failure that we're using as part of the FTD cluster and VPC. In previous sessions, we showed you how this cluster of FTDs is set up, what happens if the data or cluster links go away for a unit, and also what happens if we lose an FTD cluster unit. Now we're going to focus on a switch that's part of the VPC. We're going to look to reboot switch 2, and in turn what that's going to do is going to cut our data plane and control plane for the FTD cluster in half, meaning that because each of the units is dual attached to the VPC switches, we're going to lose one of those links and come down from 2 10 gigs attachment to 1 10 gig for both data and control plane. As the switch fails, FTD cluster will remain intact. We'll still have our 2-unit FTD cluster. We'll use half of the links. As the switch comes back, it'll basically recover the VPC and add those ports back into the both span port channel for the data links and individual VPC cluster control links. So this should pose no disruption to our traffic. We'll still be testing with our host through both ASA and FTD clusters. In this case, when we reboot the switch, the ASA cluster will also be affected in the same way. So we have those consoles in place as well. So here's our switches here in place. We have our port channels alive, and the VPC is also all in place and up and running. Our test connections for TCPs are there, the pings are going, and the UDP traffic is being received as well. If we take a look at our second switch, the links, the port channels are up, and the VPCs are also up and running. Here's our FTD 2-node cluster. Here's our ASA. It's also a 2-node cluster. So at this point, we're going to proceed to reload this second switch. As we do this, we're going to watch our UDP traffic and our TCP traffic. We can see that the second switch in the VPC, the switch 1 had detected that the VPC peer had gone away. Our traffic is not affected yet. Everything is up and running. If we look at our FXOS GUIs, we can see that all of them are showing the 2 links into switch 2 had gone down, but they're still inside the cluster itself with half of the links working. The traffic that we have going had not been disrupted. Both clusters are still in place. So we're simply going to pause the video now and just wait for this switch to come back and rejoin the cluster with full capacity of its 10 gig links. Okay, now second switch had rebooted and came up. VPC is up. We can see that the port channel is up and peer adjacency has been formed. The other side is also showing adjacency. We had lost one packet here in the transition of bringing that VPC back in. All of our pings are still going, and our TCP connections are still up and running. If we take a look at our FXOS, we can see that ASA1 had caught up and all ports are green. ASA2, you can see that FTD1 had caught up as well, and FTD2 is about to show us green status as well. So there it is. We had showed you what happens if a switch fails. So here we had rebooted the switch, lost the data links that were connected to it as well as cluster control links, and we had lost, maybe paused one packet in terms of UDP during these transitions. That concludes our FTD cluster resiliency videos, with this last video showing you what happens to your traffic if we lose a switch that is participating in this solution with FTD cluster. Thank you for watching.